we build corporate headquarters? Many of us have our corporate headquarters in Lagos, or customer care centers like Engineer Teacher just said, which can be accessed and used by persons with disabilities, people on wheelchair, the blind and the deaf, and so on. Many of us can go to your customer care centers and be, and receive quality attention. Ditto to many of your corporate headquarters. Wheelchair users can't use them. Those of us with visual impairment and the deaf cannot also use them. Now, why do we support the building of roads, pedestrian bridges, jetties, and other public, public transport facilities, and so on, when, of course, all of us with disabilities find them difficult to use? Why do we support youth and women empowerment and development, initiatives, entrepreneurship development and disability skills development programs, when you don't mainstream persons with disabilities? And that's why you don't find it easy to employ persons with disabilities, because already, even in the CSIs that you conduct for youth and women development, we are not properly mainstreamed. Why do you support primary healthcare services? A lot of you support primary healthcare services when women and children with disabilities can't be treated because of the lack of basic necessary infrastructure and the human capacity. Well, we ask all these questions so that we can set the background for our discussion. Again, why do we support sports development without considering the special needs of persons with disabilities? Whereas many of us, sports and women with disabilities, bring even more laurels to the country. We are all living witnesses to the last Olympics. But I'm not saying much about disabled sports supported by telecoms operators, and you're very active in that area as well. So these are some of the questions. And above all, why do we provide telecoms and other related services, like telephone, internet, and so on, to the public without making due accessibility provisions for all, including persons with disabilities? This is the core of the issue. All the others, well, say by the way, because we know you spend a lot of money on social initiatives, but now you also provide services, which is your primary assignment that we can't access. Now let's look at some of the implications. The implications, for all of this. Now it is true that sustained exclusion and inadequate access for PWDs to basic social and economic services and opportunities, such as those provided by the telecoms industry, will lead to, one, at least 20% of the population in Nigeria with low productivity and little or no income to afford basic life needs, including telecom sector. So imagine 20% of the population of the market that you are targeting not being able to afford your services. I'm sure that should be a serious concern for your marketing department. Now, this situation is likely to rise to over 30% in the next 5 to 10 years. That's why I'm not just going to be talking about 20%. Because you see, certain things have been held constant. Diseases, issues of diseases, issues of violent conflicts, as we saw one, another one is rising. Issues of low response to climate change induced disasters, and so on. Bad infrastructure, roads, and other. All of these are things that swell the population of persons with disabilities. Now, we cannot hold back some of these things. We don't have any control about it. But we can respond to them by ensuring that, well, in as much as these people are not dead, they are alive, and they can still function in some ways, we should mainstream them, we should target them, we should ensure that we provide services they can afford and that they can access. Now, PWDs have the ability to also use some of these services. They can afford it, especially when they have employment, when they are employed and all that, when they are actively productive. Then another impact here is that increase in the prevalence of prevalence level of disability due to worsening conflicts, natural disasters, and so on, and violent conflicts will reduce the quantity and quality of human resources. Now, this is very important, particularly when you look at issues of employment. If you don't employ people with disabilities as they increase in population, you will also feel it with the quality and quantity of manpower accessible to you. You need people and you can't get them to employ. So it will somehow lead to labor crisis that you, even as a very active player in the industry, will definitely feel. So this is why you must provide jobs for persons with disabilities. Now, failure to guarantee inclusion and access for PWDs will promote increase in the poverty, in poverty, and worsening poverty levels will also increase disability prevalence rate. With more PWDs increasing, facing increasing exclusion and inaccessibility, the society, the market, the economy, and the nation as a whole will be worse for it. We are not prophets of doom, but when we fail to take necessary actions to ensure that even when people become disabled by one reason or the other, the impact is not felt by the market that you target, that the impact is not felt by the society, by the economy, and by the nation as a whole. So this is not something we can turn blind eyes to. Now, meanwhile, the world as a whole, like you heard in the EPC's speech, is waking up to this reality. And they are taking bold steps to respond to the imminent challenges that will emerge out of this crisis. And so that leads me to the next issue here, which is legislative and policy response. That is the responses that we are beginning to see. The EPC and the NCC are quite aware, and I'm happy about that. But we must also note that disability issues are no longer reduced to charity issues. Disability issues are now strictly social and human rights issues. And you heard it in the EPC speech. He cited the Constitution and all that. That's why I said, talking after very wise persons, you have very little to also say. Now, this is because if you are not infected by disability, you are affected by it. Just like malaria, HIV/AIDS, climate change, gender and social, discrimination, and so on. So if you are not affected by it, if you are not a person living with disability, you are likely to be affected by it. Your market will be affected by it. The labor force will be affected by it. And so world leaders, government, business and civil society organizations have realized initiative as the government, as a representative of the government, of the federal government, to ensure that all those that is to pretend over, just as I've said here, comply to the UNCRPD because it is a signatory to it. Now, we look at some of the key principles, guiding principles of the UNCRPD. I'm sure if you turn to the back of your brochure, we provided some excerpts from the UNCRPD for you to read later. But I'll just quickly run through the guiding principles. And of course, the first one here is respect for inherent dignity, individual autonomy, inclusion, and freedom to make one's own choices and independence of persons. This is all encompassing. The second here is non-discrimination.